what's on your sexual menu, individually and together. So what are your yeses? What sounds so fresh? Are you trying to really get out there and explore some fantasies deeper with your partner? Do you want to really explore that clitoral vibrator that you've been eyeballing, that everybody's talking about? Do you want to perhaps maybe try some different positions? So get your yeses.
This is episode number 579 with Amy Baldwin and April Lampert. We are going to be talking about how to become a better lover. And just a little trigger warning for anyone who does not want to hear anything explicit. We may be going there with this episode, and there will be talk about sex. So if you have any small children around or anybody who's uncomfortable with this topic, you might want to skip this episode, but hopefully you'll stay because it's going to be juicy and fun. Hi, everybody. I am Sandy Weiner, and welcome back to Last First Date Radio, where we believe it is never too late to go on your last first date. And to support you, I've written 2 books. The first one is called Becoming a Woman of Value, How to Thrive in Life and Love. And I'll be sharing a tip from this book in just a few minutes. This is a book really about how to have better core confidence as a woman. And I go through many, many different steps and exercises to get there. The second book is really a dating guide, and it's called Choice Points in Dating. And this is a book to empower women to make healthier decisions on their path to love. And we go through everything from how to even think about dating, how to choose a better partner, how to recognize your patterns, how to do better at online dating, offline dating, and how to know whether you should stay or go, how to know whether it's your last first date. So you can find both of these books on Amazon for Kindle or paperback. And this week's tip on becoming a woman of value is step number 18, and it's dare to think big. I just wrote in my newsletter this week about taking small steps to big goals. And anybody who's written a book, and I know Amy and April have, and I have written 2, and I'm in the middle of my 3rd, we need to take baby steps to get to our big goals. And I am just recovering from a broken foot. And just the other day, I was told I could take my boot off for the first time and just take some steps. And I was like, oh my God, I can't take a step without this thing. I was told not to put any weight on this foot for 6 freaking weeks. And I took a step and it hurt. And then I took another step and it hurt. But I am now walking around the house without a boot on. It's like you think you can't, and then you can. So anytime you think about a big goal and think you can't, I want you to rethink that and dare to think big, but take those baby steps to get there. And before I bring on my guests, I just want to give a shout out to my Facebook group. It's called Your Last First Date. And we are a group for women over 40 who are looking for positive growth in their journey to love. This is a group where you can talk about everything from dating to sex to first date conversations. Everything is all doable with the right support. So many groups are just a place to talk about how awful dating is and how awful men are. And we are not that group. We have very strict guidelines. I have amazing monitors who keep this group safe and sane. So if you would like that, come and join us at Your Last First Date. And now for my guests. Amy Baldwin is a sex and relationship coach. She is a certified sex educator and the co-owner of a mother-daughter owned online pleasure boutique called Pure Pleasure Shop. April Lampert has been educating people about sex toys and sexual pleasure since 2008, and she is the Chief Sales and Partnerships Officer and co-owner of the award-winning sex toy company, Hot Octopuss, with 2 S's. Welcome to the show, Amy and April.
Thank you for having us.
No, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yes.
Yeah, well, you have your book behind you. So if anybody's watching video, this book, which is not out yet, talks about shameless sex. So first, let's just talk about what made you want to write this book.
Our podcast, Shameless Sex, that we created began in early 2017, started the process early 2017, but released our first episode in, I want to say, the first weekend of June of 2017. And so we do weekly episodes all about how to have shameless sex and relationships. And we came up with, so we've released episodes every single week. We've never missed a week since then. And the podcast just blew up. Originally, it was a passion project, and then it just became a business and something that we absolutely love to do. And we came up with the concept for the book, though, I think like a year and a half later after starting the podcast. So we have a specific concept. It's a concept that's very unique for our book that kind of came to us, but we were not ready at that time to start writing because we were still growing Shameless Sex, which we will always be doing that with Shameless Sex. So it took
5 years.
5 years.
It was a long time.
A wonderful human to email us and say, it was a book agent. So I love your podcast. Have you ever thought about writing a book? And this was like, I think late 2020 maybe or something, because we started really writing early 2021. And we're like, yeah, we actually have a concept. We just haven't been putting the time and energy into writing it. And said, I'll be your agent. And he's awesome. And so we moved forward and we started writing.
We were like, how can we trust this dude?
We've never met him in person.
Never met him to know that if he's legit and he's awesome. And the book's concept, which is really fun and relatable for all ages, really, if you're 18 plus, of course. And that being said, do you remember, Sandy, the Choose Your Own Adventure books from the 80s that started being published? So this is similar concept where it's something that you can choose the outcome that you desire. And as relationships flow and change, you can choose your own pleasure path to receive the outcome that you want. And it's almost based in this past, present, future sort of vibe. So because you have to start with sometimes the hard stuff to get to the present and then plan for the future. So it's really cool. And it's something that people can use again and again and again throughout relationships in their lives.
And it's not fiction, like Choose Your Own Adventure. There's no, yesterday we were talking about, it's like abominable snowman there. And
can you learn how to hook up with an abominable snowman? No, that's not like,
I fell in love with a dinosaur. But no, it's not, doesn't have that. So it's really, a guide or a map or a compass for folks to figure out kind of who they are as a unique sexual being and where do they want to go, and without us directly saying, here's what you should do. It's, well, what is the outcome you want? And then here are the options. So sometimes you're skipping forward to other pages like you would in Choose Your Own Adventure. So we created it for people to really kind of take ownership of their sexuality and how they navigate relationships.
And we utilized our hundreds of podcast episode experts that we have, like world-renowned therapists, doctors, sex educators, really brilliant humans. And we utilized their skill set and their expertise and plugged those into the book. So you're getting this very wide range of amazing advice. It's not just what Amy and April say. No, we will weave bits of our own stories throughout there to help sort of the readers understand that sometimes we know exactly what you're going through, and also that we've applied this and it's worked for us in different ways. So it's I think it's awesome. And we just read the Audible. We were telling Sandy before we started recording and reading it. We read each of us took different chapters, and I was so pleasantly surprised reading it cover to cover how funny and relatable and awesome it was. And so was the director and the sound engineer, who are both penis owners. They were both like, wow, this is really heterosexual penis owners. They're like, this is a really great book. It's funny and relatable. I was like, thank you. One was 60 and the other one was 34. So we're like,
cool.
Awesome. Yeah. Yes.
You're hitting all the markets. I think it's great that not only are you appealing to all different types of people, but also people don't really discuss sex enough, in my opinion. And as a dating and relationship coach, I've guided many of my clients to have these discussions and to actually explore the outer edges of their sexuality, because especially older people who are coming out of long-term marriages where they may have had either vanilla sex or no sex for a very long time, just talking about it, just exploring what's out there, because there's so many questions. So for people who are curious about trying to figure out what they want in the bedroom, how can they figure it out and how can they ask for it?
Our book, and this is not just our book, but how we teach, or what we believe, is, like April said, sometimes you have to start with the more challenging, not so sexy, difficult pieces, such as getting really clear about your shame and your trauma. Where did they came from? What are they doing in your body when they pop up? Like, how are they acting acting as barriers or creating some sort of challenge for you to be connected to your own body, your own sexuality, or to others, your partner or whomever you're being intimate with. And so we really stand by that yes, we would love to just be like, let's get to the really fun stuff and figure out how you want to be touched and all those things, which we always get there, and the book gets there, right? But in the beginning, it's getting clear on those more difficult pieces. So kind of like going through the shadows to go to the light. And yeah, so we think that that's really important. And then once you figure out a lot more about the details of that, then it's what kind of healing do I need to do around that, right? Well, like, do I need to work with a therapist or a coach? Can this just be my own journey? Do I need to have conversations with folks that I was in past relationships with that were either really wonderful or hurtful? What is the work that you can set out to do to heal? And when I say heal, I don't know how you two feel, but I personally think that our past traumas, and trauma, there's no hierarchy of trauma in the way we think, at least. Your trauma to you, it can be to someone else like that's not trauma, and it's not up to them to decide that for you.
Heal is also so much better than fix, because you're not broken.
Yeah.
We definitely feel that no one is broken. No. So that's why if we say
we have a whole chapter on that. Am I broken?
You're not fixed. You can heal. And I just wanted to interject with that one.
Yeah. And so working on those pieces there, the healing. Oh, so what I was saying about that though is, it's not that we're trying to heal so we never have a challenge again. I mean, that would be really nice. It'd be so nice. But instead, it's more like reprogramming the system to have more positive experiences while acknowledging, the triggers or the blocks that are in there, so that the more positive experience create neural pathways in your brain to be the more rapidly firing pieces. But you have to start to have them first. So do the work to get there and then start having them. And then from there, then we can add in all the fun stuff. Now we can learn about all the juicy tools and tips and tricks that you can apply with your own practices, with your self-pleasure practice or being intimate with partners. Then it can get really fun, but it's kind of like these layers that you go through to get to the juicies.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with you that people think, well, I'm going to heal and then I'll be all fixed. And the word fix, I agree, is a trigger word, because we're not broken. We are not responsible for our past trauma. It happened to us. And trauma can look as simple as you didn't grow up with parents who touched you a lot, or who expressed love, or you moved a lot, or you had a sick sibling. It could be anything. It could be anything. And so recognizing, though, that these are our triggers and this is our trauma helps us to manage our triggers, helps us to understand ourselves better, and hopefully we can't do it by ourselves usually. So hopefully we find somebody good to support us. And then you have the tools. So once you have the tools, then you can then do the fun things. And so you can then take those fun things. And now how do we, let's say, give us an example of a fun thing and how somebody might ask for it from a partner.
All right. So I love fun things. And one thing that comes up again and again, sometimes people, they don't know how to ask for what they want in the bedroom. And even if you think you're skilled at communication in when you're out in civilian land outside of your home, when you're with a lover or a partner, you can get choked up or confused at what to say, or are they going to judge me? Should I be ashamed of this? There's so many layers to asking for what you want. And I think making that fun, and you can even make that fun if you're in a long-term partnership, or if you are single, or if you're dating, you could have an identify what's on your sexual menu, individually and together. So what are your yeses? What sounds so fresh? Are you trying to really get out there and explore some fantasies deeper with your partner? Do you want to really explore that clitoral vibrator that you've been eyeballing, that everybody's talking about? Do you want to perhaps maybe try some different positions? So get your yeses. What are your maybes? I don't know. I've never had a threesome, but maybe I'd be into it. I don't know. I've never had exhibitionary sex, but I may be into it. And it doesn't mean you have to do any of these things. But then what are your hard no's? No, I I'm taking anal off the table, right? I'm not going to want to explore that. Or no, I'm not into erotic massage. I'm just throwing out different things, right? Everybody's going to have different lists, and those lists could change, but those maybes and those yeses, you can kind of compare with your partners, and then you can start having these fun erotic date nights. They don't necessarily even have to be erotic. They can be intimate date nights where you're exploring these things together, and you can kind of you could check them off the list, but you're creating these menus that, and we say menu because it can be delicious, it can be yummy, it can be experiential, and it can be something that isn't just boring on a whiteboard writing down your
PowerPoint,
your to-dos. Yeah, you can make it a little bit more. It can be something where there's no touch involved, there's no penetration, there's no genitals involved. You don't have to. It can just be simple touch and expression and intimate shares.
Yeah, and to add to what she's saying, so if we use one of those examples, so say it was fantasy, and I'll make it really simple as opposed to like deciding what the fantasy is that will there's everyone. I mean, there's so many fantasies that people have. It's very vast. So say you just want to start talking to your partners about fantasies, like you want to know what their fantasies are, you want to share yours, and you haven't really done that. Maybe it's been kind of scary for you. So that would be the example that I'll work with. And so in our book, and again, we practice this in our own lives, we have what we call small asks and big asks. A small ask is something that is potentially less triggering, or could feel maybe less vulnerable. And small asks you can do in the bedroom, right? Like if I want, April's touching my body and she's touching my breasts, and I'd like her to touch them a little softer or slower. There's a way that you can say that in the bedroom that might not be as triggering, and so it's just kind of like in the moment there. A big ask is something that if we were having sex and I was like, April, can we talk about our fantasies while we're naked and having sex? Could be a big ask. Could be like, whoa, really vulnerable. I'm not ready for this. Is this like a great conversation to have outside of the bedroom? Or you could be laying in the bedroom, but not during sex. So I think those are two important distinctions on how, like, what do you feel like is a big ask? What is a small ask? And then what's the right context to bring those up? And we also have something we call the connect formula, which it's from what we created this, but it's based on a lot of different communication skills or modalities that we've learned. So the connect is an acronym, but it's a seven-step acronym that stands for consideration, which is being considerate and having these conversations when everyone's in positive spirits and no one's in a rush. Outside, so having them outside the bedroom. Again, this is for like the big asks. Negotiation, so this is asking for permission to talk about it, and then negotiating if it's even the right time to have this conversation, instead of cornering someone and being like, you need to talk to me about your fantasies right now, which potentially will have them inspire them to shut down and not want to share with you. And then we have nicely to the nitty gritty. So this is starting with the positives and being authentic, but also getting really clear beforehand about what it is you want to share. So you don't go in with this messy, like, I don't know exactly what I want to say. But, if you get more clear, then you can get really nicely to the nitty gritty. And then also exposure. So being willing to be vulnerable and expose your truth. Because it's risky, right? It's risky to make requests, because you're risking, what if they say no? What if they're upset by this? But you know what? If those things happen, we have tools for that too, on what you can do next. And ultimately, taking that risk can be far more rewarding than not doing that. And then curiosity. So elaborating on your curiosity and focusing on the we as opposed to you, or me. But me is also helpful. But, the pointing at someone else, like, you need to share your fantasies with me more. Like, you're the one not doing that. I tell you my fantasies. You don't do that. Instead, making it a we situation, that we're in this collaboration here. I want to do this for us. I want to share fantasies with you, with both of us together, because I want to share a deeper connection with you. And I think that would be great for us. And it's not that we're broken. It's, we're good. I want to be great. And I want to do that with you. Sounds way better than we have a problem, or you have a problem, or you're the problem. And then getting curious about what they say too. Your partner's internal landscape is really helpful. And then the last one would be therapy. seeking a therapist or a coach, especially if you're feeling like you're stuck in this thing. And also, even if you're not being preventative, working with therapists or coaches can really help so that you don't go to them when the I won't say that word. When things have hit the fan, if
when
you know what I mean.
hits the fan.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say like just a small scale example if I were to say this to April with fantasies, and I'll say, this is kind of feeling like maybe it's a big ask. So I would, we're hanging out on the couch having our coffee or tea. And maybe I would say, hey, it's April. There's something I've been thinking about that's really important to me related to sex. And I'm wondering if you're open to talking about it. If so, is now a good time? If not, then can we schedule a time, or even schedule a time we can check in then? And then April can share that with me.
P.S. We're not partners. We're best friends.
We've never been an example,
but she always uses it as an example because it's easy.
Well, she's right here
in case
too.
You're curious,
she's here right
we've
now.
We've only hugged.
Yeah,
we can sleep in the same bed, but that's about it.
We've been sleeping in the same bed since 2006.
Yeah, we're sisters.
But we're not actually sisters.
No.
So if April said yes, yeah. How about now? So then I would open up with the positives first. So I wouldn't just go into like, here's the problem. I love you so much. I love our relationship. I love our partnership.
You can call it a compliment sandwich if you want. You put the hard stuff in the middle.
But and so yes. And also though, when you're doing this, you want to be authentic. So don't bullshit them. Like, you're the best I've ever had if you don't feel that way. You
I
say
like some bullshit.
Oh shit! I said shit again.
Yeah,
oh no!
Yeah, going downhill.
Oh no! Okay,
we put warnings out. It's okay.
Warnings. Okay, good.
Earmuffs. Sorry.
So, anyways, so I would open with those pieces, and then I would follow with the word "and." Here's what I'm desiring more of. I'm really desiring to share fantasies with you. Hear your fantasies, share mine. Are you open to that? And that's the negotiation. You can't force someone to be what you want.
And the sexual menu. I want to do a sexual menu with you. It would be so important for me and for our relationship. Is that something that you're willing to explore with me?
Yeah.
And keeping it open-ended instead of being harsh or getting let down, because there's more than just you in the relationship. So being mindful of others' capacity for where you're driven to go in the relationship and the outcome you desire is important as well, because that can shift. And speaking to your own needs is super important.
I love so many things about what you shared. And I just think that no matter what it is you're talking about, there is a way to communicate that is inclusive. And there's a way to communicate that is offensive and is demanding. And a lot of times when people are fearful, they will demand because they're afraid of being rejected. So they'll end up subconsciously rejecting themselves. And I think that these conversations are very scary for people, but you're speaking about it in a way that's extremely accessible and very clear about how to do it, how to make it fun, how to make it an easy conversation. Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Amazon Music Unlimited. You can listen to over 70 million songs and thousands of playlists and stations. Plus, you can now stream your favorite podcasts like Last First Date Radio. You can listen to any song, anytime, anywhere, on any of your devices. Get Amazon Music Unlimited for free for 30 days. Just head on over to getamazonmusic.com/lastfirstdate to learn more and claim this offer. A lot of my demographic does have some sexual issues like erectile dysfunction or vaginal dryness or, all kinds of sexually transmitted diseases they're afraid to talk about. So in terms of that, do you have any suggestions as to how to, let's say a woman's dating a man who has erectile dysfunction and he doesn't really want to talk about it? Any good ways to talk about it?
Like from her perspective to help him talk about it, or okay.
There's so erectile issues. We call them, so we as shameless sexers here, we tend to steer away from even the language of dysfunction because it automatically has a vibe, has a feeling surrounding that. Yeah. So we say either erectile challenges, which can sound interesting to some as well. Or we say
erectile control, ejaculatory control
issues. So if you want to take out, you can say, okay, but so usually, ED for this conversation, there's something around it, and a lot of it can be in the mind. We have a whole lot to offer and share, not only on our podcast, but in our book, about penis control, right? And what you want to do. And because sometimes there's someone that is unable to get an erection. And the cool thing is the company, the Hot Octopuss that I co-own, we started on medical research based on like this technology that was designed for people with erectile issues, actually people with spinal cord injuries that wanted to have children. So our toys actually help people with erectile issues have orgasms and also erections, which, remember, those two things don't happen simultaneously or necessarily. One doesn't necessarily follow the other. You can have orgasms without an erection, and you can also have erections and not orgasms. So that being said, it is a bit of my expertise because I talk about erectile issues all the time. And we make a product called the Pulse. I randomly have these here because I'm doing a training right after this for a sales team in British Columbia. And it just is something that you can put on your penis, soft to hard, and the technology, this pulse plate, will tap on it and oscillate at a specific amplitude that will help the penis owner have an erection. That also means if you don't have erectile issues, we have a couples toy as well that can help you have multiple orgasms. So you can lessen your refractory period. We also have a section in the book by her name's Keely Rankin, MA, and she has this whole beautiful step process for folks that have ejaculatory control stuff happening, and it breaks it down really beautifully to different, because a lot of it can be mental, a lot of it can be based on past trauma, a lot of it can be based on just being in your head so much that it's difficult to get that erection, or feeling like you're not lasting long enough, or so there's so many components there. Now, from the partnership side, of course, if you have a partner that has ejaculatory stuff happening or erectile stuff happening that doesn't want to talk about it, that's going to have to be their choice. And there's a fine line to be delicate about it, but soft cock play is a thing that actually can be really fun, and taking that pressure off of your partner if they don't want to talk about it is a huge key element to helping the process of any erectile stuff that's happening. And there are so many other factors: diet, exercise, medications. SSRIs are historically linked to lowering libido, and also having a connectivity issue between what's happening with your blood flow to your genitals. So those pieces we address, and we do talk about how it's important to talk about with your doctor, with your actual MD that's prescribing you any meds, if sex is important to you or your erections are important to you, to maybe get different medicines that can help you. Also, see your urologist. Urologists are genius.
Coming back to the question, though, about how you can actually talk to your partner who has the erectile issues, because you're obviously, in this question that you asked, they likely the partner wants to talk to the other partner about it, but the other partner's not talking about their erectile stuff. And so I think, agreeing with what April said about, it kind of goes with the sexual menu stuff but the soft cock play and taking the pressure off, instead of going like, okay, we have a problem, you need to work on this and acknowledge this. Instead, it's, I'm noticing sometimes your cock goes soft, or maybe your cock doesn't get super hard, and that's totally okay. Because there are so many other ways that we can play. And I'm just happy to be intimate with you. I'm just happy to be touching you and touched by you. I don't have to have a hard cock. Now, if you think you need to have a hard cock, maybe don't say that exact statement, but like reframe your own brain. Fingers are a lot of cocks, right? Like you can use fingers. Sex toys are great for this. You could, for penetrative sex toys.
Just have this new Hot Octopuss toy out and be like, babe, do you want to try this with me?
So penetrative sex toys that someone can use on you or in you. There's strap-on harnesses that they can wear. So I would really focus on reframing the conversation to not a problem. And yes, like April said, you can't make them do a thing or decide to talk about it, but you can initiate the conversation and let them know that all is well. But like, let's figure out other ways to play, because I'm totally down with that. And your soft cock is just fine.
Cool. So either way, either they're happy with it or not happy with it, but how you frame it is important.
Yeah. And you're giving permission too for someone to be them while adding other things to the menu.
Yeah, I think what happens often from the women that I work with is that the men are shut down and then they have a lot of shame, and that leads to bad sex.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go to how to have good sex. So you've talked about some sex toys for people who, let's say, are in a longer term relationship and they want to keep the fires burning. What are some suggestions you have?
Sex toys and
Right.
self-pleasure. Self-pleasuring is key. I mean, we talk about that again and again, not only in the book, but throughout our lives, because your partner is not psychic. I mean, if they are, they don't know exactly what's happening in your body at all times. And they're also not mind readers. So if you want to have a certain action or a certain touch, you have to ask for it. But how to identify that? And knowing what you want is by self-exploration, self-pleasure practice. Creating that is really important. And then sharing that. Mutual masturbation is one that comes again and again because you're responsible for your own pleasure. You really are, right? And that is something that is so important that a lot of people, especially when I'm over 40, and I know that historically when I was younger, I was never taught that my pleasure was mine to know my body. I thought, because of how I think the mainstream media, movies, all of it, oh, they're supposed to be the ones bringing me pleasure. Oh, I didn't realize that I was conditioned to not know what I wanted and not explore my body because I had shame around that as well. So breaking through those barriers and doing the self-pleasure practice is huge. It's key.
Well, the other thing I would add to the self-pleasure is, if you're trying to keep the spark and the fire burning within a partnership, but you let your spark or fire go out within yourself, that's going to show up in your relationship. And that, people let their spark or fire go out for many reasons. Sometimes it just happens. You don't let it. You have some sort of trauma, say you get a major injury, like you just said you had. April just hurt her knee too. Like, you don't probably feel like the sexiest person there in that time. And so maybe you need some time to be in that, and that might affect your relationship, but being aware of that and knowing that when you come out of that space, like, you want to start putting more coal into your fire, like stoking your fire. And self-pleasure is a big part of that. If you go down to like a low simmer, how can you bring it back up? Or how can you always have some of your erotic pleasure kind of churning? It doesn't have to be full force, like mind-blowing orgasms all the time, but having some connection to it and having a regular self-pleasure practice can be a really important, vital part of that to show up in relationships. And then in your partnership, I think what happens with a lot of couples, especially long-term couples, is they kind of stop getting curious about each other. And, I know you like the back of my hand, and so I'm not looking at you each day as like, who are you today? I'm not putting in the effort.
Novelty is gone.
Yeah, the novelty's gone. Right. I'm not putting in the effort to do a bunch of new things, whether it's romance or not. And so then they just become like companion or housemates. So I think one of the key things is reframing the mindset. How can I be curious about my partner each day as if they're a new person every day? And then how can I, and my partner does this, how can we create practices or like weekly, at least, check-ins on some form of being intimate with each other. This is why we love the idea of having intimacy nights or days or mornings, like at least once a week if you can, if not every other week. You can find a childcare maybe if you have children, and if you can't, then 20 minutes is great, like whatever you can get. When they're napping or sleeping. And it doesn't mean you have to have sex. It's just, we are going to commit to at least once a week, coming together at this time. Maybe it doesn't have to be set. We're going to be it's intimate time, no phones, no TV. And it doesn't mean we have to have sex. When we show up, we're first of all, definitely show up. Don't be like, I don't feel like it today. Because that's how you feel about your relationship in that moment if you're doing that. But you don't have to have sex. You can show up and be like, I'm just feeling like hanging out and just like snuggling and not talking for 20 minutes. Are you open to that? And then you can go from there. So that's also a negotiation too. But the more you do that, the more it will fuel your erotic fire or fuel tank, even if you're not having sex.
Curiosity is so key. And I think so many people just feel they know each other, everything about each other. I mean, I've certainly been on dates where we had a phone call before a date, and on the date they're repeating the same story. So that's about all I need to know about that person. But
I'm good.
but people who really are leaving you with more curiosity, people who have some mystery, people who are interesting to get to know, it always is there. It's just a matter of paying attention and being intentional in your relationship, because I think so many long-term couples, especially, they just get used to each other and it gets boring. And even in the dating world, even on beginning dates where dating is sitting across from somebody having coffee or a drink and it's not that interesting, I encourage people to go out and do an activity, do something that scares you, do something that will lead to more of an erotic experience and a connection that's romantic and not just, we're having a deep conversation about politics and it's really fascinating.
It's like an interview, and make it more
Yes.
of an experience together as opposed to sitting at an interview. Like interviews are not that fun unless you're podcasting, so then they're fun.
Well, Esther Perel, we quoted her in the book. She's such a genius when it comes to building solid relationships, especially for the long haulers, right? The ones that have been in a relationship for a long time. It gets monotonous and boring. And obstacle plus attraction is what really helps with desire. And that's when that fire. So if there is the mystery, the curiosity, and you remember all the ways, wow, I was really attracted to you back when we used to go skydiving, or when we used to take long walks on the beach, or we used to do something new together, or I just want to see your, I want to watch your muscles as you row this kayak with me in it, right? Like there's so many different fun things to spark that attraction. And the reason that you're with that partner in the first place, you obviously fell in love with them for a reason, even if it was years ago. But that obstacle too, that curiosity, that like what that mystery is still really important as well. So that's where the desire just will start to emerge. And as Amy said, be fueled, pour some gasoline on it.
Yeah. Light that fire. So as we come to an end, I'm curious, is there anything that I haven't asked you that you'd like to share?
Well, I think I'll make this super snappity. So because I think so we get so many sex questions here, and what people don't, while most of them are geared towards like, am I normal? Am I broken? And those are the first 2 chapters of our book. But they really want to get to the fun stuff. Like, how can I be a better lover? How can I keep things hot and steamy? Which we also have those chapters too. And so the better lover is a really big one that people are really interested in, like sexual mastery. And so we have a couple different things in our book, and I won't go over all of them right now, but we have the top 3 erotic must-haves, which I think are just kind of important for all sex, whether it's dating, long-term relationships, marriage, all the things, which one would be removing goals, like making, if their orgasm's a goal, get rid of that, make orgasm a bonus so that you can really hone in on all the juicy things that happen in the journey. I think that's really vital for being a master lover and keeping things hot and spicy for a long time. Because if we have a goal, we're like, okay, I'm not even going to enjoy now because I'm set on later. Another one is continued foreplay. So just because you started being erotic with someone doesn't mean that now you're not having foreplay anymore. So foreplay doesn't have to just happen before; it can happen throughout the experience, and foreplay can happen all the time, even outside, not even before, it can happen after, like living in foreplay.
We have a quote for this amazing, he's a sex educator, and he says, people should stop worrying about premature ejaculation and worry more about premature penetration.
Yeah.
Meaning foreplay is so vital to just like keeping it hot. So
yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And then
I love that too.
Yeah, it's a great quote. And we're like, oh my God, my mind is blown. And then with the last C, this is not the C's, right? No, it's not C. Erotic must have. C's are a different portion of the book. That's consent and stuff. The last one for the erotic must haves, the aftercare piece. So if you have foreplay before, during, and hopefully all the time, but after you're intimate with someone, instead of like rolling over and just going to sleep, that's a really powerful time to stay connected. And it doesn't have to be like, all energy fully connected, for the whole, for an hour, but like you can stay connected without even speaking. And that it's kind of like you're riding this wave, and you're like, but you're staying on it in this way. You're not just like, oh, I'm done. Bye. which can be really hard for people, but it just continues to put, who's what'd you say, the Alice Nash, your piggy bank. You're like investing in your
the intimacy bank. Dr. Allison Ash.
Yeah.
Yes.
Every little bit matters, from before, during, and after,
credit
and even
and debit,
outside.
You have to
context.
keep pumping it full of the intimacy. Well, I mean, in this case, it wouldn't be money, but intimacy energy.
Yeah.
So you're not just debiting. You want to really keep that bank high. We just talked to her Tuesday.
Yeah.
She was talking about this. I was like, I love that.
I love all the deposits, to your emotional bank, to your erotic bank, to all the banks, because we think that, it's just we're together, so it's cool now. And it's not cool now. You have to keep nurturing any relationship. They don't just thrive on their own. And I love what these 3 erotic must-haves, so important. And I think people also don't realize how expansive things like foreplay can be. And it can be as simple as a touch during the day, or doing the dishes, like that is foreplay. So my final question that I ask everyone is, what is your best advice for anyone who wants to go on their last first date?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Love that.
I think, well, we've talked about this quite a bit. Get curious. It's funny, Sandy, when you talked about someone that you went on a date with that repeated themselves, and that is something. Be mindful and really drop into the experience you're having with that person, whether they're new or not. Like distraction, turn off your phone or put it away, put on do not disturb, and drop in and actively listen and be attentive and care about this person that you're sharing this date with, and that, I think, if you always treat the person that you're with like it was the first date, I think that is something that is gold. And it's hard to do. I drop out of that. I've been in partnership for quite a while, and I forget how we were when we first met, in that honeymoon lust phase for each other all the time, when the busyness starts. So if you can and you are able to, just do that active listening, and really sharing, and also treat them like you did when you first met.
For us, I'm assuming the last first day is you finally met the person. So it's the last date,
yes.
And now you're going off into the relationship land with them.
Yes.
And one thing that I like, and actually April and I both utilize this, although I don't know how many of you made it through, but someone once gave us this advice to make a list of 100 things you want in a partner, and it could be anything from like they like pizza to they speak French, to they like dogs, and to like things like they're emotionally available, touch is their primary love language, or acts of service, all these different pieces. And just getting clear in those things. It's not that you are necessarily like, I have to find someone with all 100 of these. And I only made it to 50 when I did this, by the way. But I think it helps create this clarity in your mind of what you're looking for, what you're kind of not looking for, even though you're not necessarily writing what you don't want. It's what you do want. And so then, like for me, when I've done that and I've gone on dates, now I have more direction as to what I'm looking for. Right now, if they're doing or saying a thing that I'm like, oh yeah, that's my thing, then that really helps me to open up more and be like, okay, maybe there's some alignment here. Versus if I wasn't clear on what those things were, I think it would be a little bit more difficult to really drop in and connect. So I think just getting really clear, and your past experiences, past relationships, breakups, all these, and people you've dated, are all part of that, showing you, they're all teachers of showing you what it is that you are looking for and want. So also maybe take an inventory of all that. And like, okay, so who am I now? Who am I calling in? And what are those things that I really want to look for, and start paying attention to those things.
Great ideas. And I have to say that I just started teaching my online dating course again last night. And one of the first things we work on is the must-have and deal breaker lists. And it's amazing to me what people put on those lists. I have people narrow it down to 5, because honestly, there really are not a whole lot that you can't live without, but there's a lot of nice to haves. So out of 100, you're going to come up with a lot of nice to haves. But what I often find is people are going to make a list of things that actually don't matter, that are actually based on assumptions. So one of them is education level. He has to have a master's degree or higher. Why? Well, because in my past relationship, I had a master's and my ex-husband was jealous of my master's degree. Oh, Okay, so that was really about his insecurity. It had nothing to do with your degree. Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah, that's
you want
his
someone who's
stuff.
confident, right?
Yeah, that's his unique stuff. Not everyone's going to be the same as
No.
the other
Yes,
person.
but we tend to do that though. We tend to take those qualities and we say, oh, well, we're going to do better this time. We're not going to repeat the same patterns. But we have to get clear what's underneath those must-haves. And so education is one, height is another one. Height is not a character trait. And another one that I see a lot is somebody who's been married thinks that a person who's never been married is not a good partner because they can't commit. And that's not necessarily true, right?
Nope.
There's a lot of people who've never been married who've had long-term committed relationships. There are a lot of people who are married who've had horrible relationships and they're not really committed to their marriage.
Mhm.
So we can't make these broad generalizations, but I think it's really important to get clear. So what's important about that? Oh, I want somebody who can make a commitment. I want somebody who's emotionally available. That's a different story than saying this rigid way of finding it is marriage first. He had to be married. So I just, being able to connect, to get curious, and curiosity is really a way to find out more about these people that we're meeting and to be present. You're going to find out a lot more than if you come in with that rigid mindset, that fixed mindset of this has to look this way. And this person absolutely is the wrong person for me because they don't tick all my boxes. Their hair is the wrong color. They're 2 inches shorter than I expected, and it's not going to work.
Get to know the person
Right.
before you decide that,
I
like,
usually-
all these things
The
don't
rule
apply.
of 3 is good for me
Yeah.
with dating. Like I'll give it 3 dates. Or 3 weeks or 3 months. And usually I can figure out if after the 3rd date, I'm like, okay, let's see how it is after 3 weeks. If that happens before.
Mhm.
I don't know. I've had some first dates where I was like, yeah, we're not spending time again.
Also,
I was going to say sometimes
yeah.
it's 3 minutes.
Sometimes-
Very
Yeah,
quick. Yeah, I'm like,
sometimes it is
oh,
3
bet
minutes.
made a poor choice on this one. I'm out of here, but nicely. Like, I'll still get like spending maybe 30 minutes with you. And
Yes,
okay,
30
no,
minutes, gotta
yeah,
go.
you're like-
nice to meet you. Good luck to you. Bye.
Yeah.
We are not the right fit. Well, this has been such a lovely conversation about a topic that people really struggle with. And I appreciate how clear you make it and how easy you make it to talk about it. So if you can share, let's say, your website, and then we have a free gift. And I'll put all the other links in the show notes. So tell us your website and your free gift.
Everything
And your
Shameless
book.
Sex is all shamelesssex.com. You can find us anywhere Shameless Sex Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, if you're into that. And you can find our book. It's anywhere books are sold, but it's for pre-sale right now. November 14th is the official date. And pre-sales are really important because it helps us get on those lists that help more people find the book. So by pre-ordering the hardcover, you're not only helping more of the world have more shameless sex, but you really are contributing to making the world a better place. You just send us your proof of purchase from wherever you bought the book. If you chose Amazon or Barnes & Noble or bookshop.org, just send us a little screenshot of the hardcover purchase and we will send you this. It's about 30 minutes and it's a workshop that Amy and I worked really hard on. It's beautifully done. And we give you advice on how to spice up your sex life, but it's basically about giving and receiving nights and really how to go about that and navigate it. And it's totally free.
Yeah, and it's not just like a lecture thing. Like we're actually showing you in real time how to do these practices of pampering your partner, giving and receiving on each other when we're not in a sexual relationship, everyone. But
and it's not. It's tastefully done. It's beautifully shot.
Thank you so much, April and Amy. You are awesome, and I love that you're bringing shameless sex to the world in so many different formats. And thanks everyone for listening today. If you love our show, please give us a rating on Apple Podcasts. Rate and review. It really helps our show continue to grow. And as always, here's to your last first date. If you are ready to get unstuck, gain new tools, become more empowered, and finally find your last first date, I'd love to talk to you. Fill out an application to be considered for a complimentary half-hour love breakthrough session at lastfirstdate.com/application.